Good girl, Masha. Hello, my name is Margaret, coming to you from a partially off-grid homestead in West Virginia.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a bit about our first year with Romanov sheep. Meet Masha. She's a relatively unusual breed here in the U.S. It's called the Romanov, mainly known as a highly prolific and lean meat animal. Hi, Masha. Market breeders are crossing them with other meat breeds to increase annual birth rate. They're easy keepers with a beautiful double fleece that's gaining in popularity with hand spinners and weavers alike. About a year ago, our small flock arrived in the midst of winter. We instantly had 2 rams, 3 ewes with newborns, and 3 more very pregnant ewes, adding to our crew of heritage breed ducks and hogs and other homesteading things we do.
Good baby.
Luckily, David had finished the addition to the shed, and the crawl space underneath the shed, which was designed to house the equipment, was a good fit, at least temporarily, for the sheep. Romanovs are excellent moms, and their lambs come out strong and hungry. The ewes often shed a bit after lambing. And here's some good news. Romanovs have a short tail and are polled, so no docking or disbiting is necessary. I mean, look at these babies. They're extremely affectionate sheep and very, very likable. Hard to avoid them. As the season changed, things greened up and the babies grew. It was time to move them before they wrecked the vulnerable spring hillside, and so we got smart. We got real. With some design modifications, we found an online how to build a pallet structure.
Silly babies.
And we got okay with building a pallet structure. So we put this pallet structure on the top of the orchard and moved everybody up there, except for our rams who live on a separate part of our property. These warming huts, as I like to call them, make a good temporary house. That is, if you don't mind the tarp shantytown look. No matter how nice the tarp is, it's not going to be a strong or lasting building. Romanovs are born with black hair, and in just a few months, their color begins to change to gray as they grow wool. That creates that dual coat. They can breed a couple times a year and have litters of 4, 5, 6 lambs at a time. Also, what happens in as many as 70 days is that they are sexually mature, which is what I think you're seeing on the far left here with that little tail. They're the first to take note of a deer, or me if I surprise them. They run right over. They're not as quiet as the other sheep. If they're hungry, they'll let you know. If they're on alert because they're surrounded by deer or something, they'll get noisy. And since we don't have a guard dog right now, and we do have deer, bear, and the occasional pit bull, I'm really glad that this crew is alert. It's actually kind of weird. It's sort of like having 2 different flocks together in the same enclosure. Well, hi ladies. Isn't that a nice sunset you have? Hello, this is Babushka. Did I mention how incredibly friendly these sheep are? They will curl up right next to you if you're giving them some scoochies under their ear or on their neck or anywhere, and they'll start wagging their tail. It's the cutest ever. So now for a serious subject. Let's segue with a happy bee buzzing in a flower. Rotational grazing. Our small flock became a time-consuming pain in the you-know-what. I have a whole rant for premier fencing having to do with using the fence in weedy thicket and on uneven hills. At some point, I gave up on straight lines and pie-shaped paddocks. But to suffice to say, premier fencing is still the best option for us. I have, however, spent many hours almost daily at some points moving the fencing. I was a full-time shepherdess, in addition to gardener, cook, house cleaner, brush trimmer, and all the other things we do around here. I'm a little worked up. But I took it as a challenge and a meditation to keep the sheep happy and on green ground. All right, enough of that. All this was going on, and the sheep's fleeces were growing, and so was my anxiety, frankly, about shearing. I love the fleece. Look at how pretty it is. I love playing with it. There's that joke where the sheep is looking at the lady and says to her, "Stop looking at me like I'm your next sweater." Ha! It's hard not to love seeing the fiber growing on these animals. It's like magic. Sorry, guys. The Romanov has a really beautiful double fleece with coarse black hair and a lovely soft gray fleece in there too. Their wool is great to blend with other wool to make woven blankets and rugs, and hopefully one day I will do a good enough job shearing so I can get more and better wool. Something I love about the Romanovs is that they're a fine-boned mid-size animal, which means they're not big or beefy, and they're easier to handle than my other sheep, and they're not as strong. So where they lack in brawn, they make up with massive personality and agility, which means they're extremely docile and affectionate, and they can squeeze in small spaces, and they're very, very curious. They're definitely easier to turn upside down and hold while shearing too. At some point around October, I felt comfortable enough that the sheep wouldn't leave town if I let them out. So I tried it. I was really tired of moving the fencing, and I let them out. First, I made sure I could shake a bucket of grain and get them back to me. And then we spent a few months last fall with them wandering around the property. They didn't go too far, and they certainly didn't wander all 40 acres. All right, so the Romanov, like I said, is unusual somewhat in the U.S. As a breed, they came from the Upper Volga region, northwest of Moscow. They were also first exported to France, then to Canada, and in the 1980s, the Canadian government bought a couple dozen of them for a research program, and the rest is history, something like that. Well, there's enough of them now here in the U.S. that there's a National Romanov Association here. I haven't had time to sign up for that. Imagine that. So this fall they did an amazing job eating the leaves off of everything I cut for them with a chainsaw. Multiflora rose, greenbrier, you name it. They eat leaves, just in general, autumn leaves they love. And coolest thing is that, man, sheep really love apples. And since we have a big old orchard, I climbed the apple trees and shook those trees, and it really helped provide extra food for them. And, you know, one of the things we learned this year also is how much sheep love to eat. If they're bored enough, they'll eat the bark off your trees. That was a hard lesson that we learned. One of the cutest things is sheep eating apple pumice. After you make your cider, you take all that crushed apples and feed it to them. So our free grazing also included down all the way close to our house and our garden. Yeah, I thank the sheep for helping clear the perennial bed. But no worries, winter came soon enough, and it was time. It was time to enclose them in their winter house and paddock. Luckily, I love beautiful things, and the Romanov is striking. I like to say that our animals and our land need to be beautiful, so that when they're bad, they're still lovable. Romanovs are historically a really hardy sheep. They're good foragers. They're great in winter and in bad weather. They have amazing personalities and love being social with their people and their sheep. The Romanov ram grows a beautiful black mane. This is Sky with his full fleece before he was shorn. Here he is post-shearing. And for the past couple months, he was paired with our 3 grown Romanov ewes. Right now, here, you see most recently we paired him with this year's ewe lambs. My goal is to cross these animals to see what we can get for market lambs. The Romanov is a lean meat and highly prolific animal. They can have 4 to 6 lambs in a litter. So there's a chance that at some point this could be conveyed through our lambs. But, you know, finding good information on the Romanov is really hard. Even when I ask Romanov breeders what they do and what they recommend, I end up feeling confused. I mean, seriously, and I'm also very insecure about what I'm doing. So my mom would tell me to stop thinking so hard and just put Sky in with the white ewes and see what happens. Well, I'll tell you what happens. Here's the video of it. This was day one, Sky with my 10-month-old babies. Luckily, he's a gentleman. He missed his other lady friends briefly until he realized he has new roommates. And, well, I guess I could say good things are happening because he's interested in the new ewes. And, however, they're a little disoriented, and he's very persistent. So, and now this is the point where I'm like, I got to get out of here. It's upsetting and a little bit bad waste of my time to be watching what's going on. I'm thinking Romanovs are a true, pure, unimproved sheep breed. They're not a cross of anything, unlike the majority of sheep breeds today. And now, having said that, I really don't like keeping a ram, so I don't know how much longer we're going to have purebred Romanovs unless somebody gives me a really good reason for it. So despite the hassles I had last summer dealing with portable fencing and the boyish nature of rams, I really like the Romanov. The Romanov ram is a gentleman. He's also not as strong as the other ram. They're generally a good-natured breed, but pay attention. If they're hungry, they will tell you. They don't even try to break out. Luckily, all of our sheep really respect their premier fence, even with a full fleece. Then again, like good sheep, Romanovs will always consume food like you've absolutely been starving them. I'm still dialing in their food program here, but I'm going for a balance between giving them access to wild forage, growing better grasses for them, and feeding local hay and grain. You know, sheep love grasses, but not all forage makes good nutrition. So it turns out, this is something we have to refine. Let's just leave it at that for the moment. It's a work in progress to grow better stuff in our small orchard and fields. Something I'm really trying to pay attention to this year is nutrition. They're making a lot of babies in there, so making sure they're getting enough protein to support the development of strong lambs is really important. I'm hugely nervous about this since it's hard to find good hay around here, and I've seen horror stories of high birth mortality rates due to nutrition during pregnancy. So this year we're going for a faster market lamb, and we'll see how the Romanov crosses turn out. Until then, I'm hanging out with my ladies, watching for signs of pregnancy, planning to shear again, and, well, hoping I get it better next time. Thanks for watching.